Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. That's the air going out of the Edmonton Oilers and their fan base tonight. Up. It was a rancid game in a lot of ways, Bruce. A 3-0 loss to the New Jersey Devils, broadcast on Amazon, which made it extremely difficult for us to do our work of reviewing scoring grade A shots because of their 10-second rewind function, which was super slow and
the picture goes to
ungainly.
absolute
The
crap
picture,
on
yeah, the
replay.
picture goes to. It's just, yeah, it's not up to the standard. It was internet hockey broadcast standards, high for that, but low compared to what you get on your TV. And maybe this is the future, but it's not a very compelling one for at least for us and the work we do. Maybe normal fans just watching on their TV wouldn't care about it, but I understand you were just watching it that way and your picture broke up now and then.
Yeah, it did. And a lot of normal fans weren't watching it on their TV because they paid for Sportsnet and not for Amazon Prime. And Sportsnet, in ceding 4 Oilers games to Amazon, um, basically cut their slate by 5% this year. But I don't recall getting a 5% reduction in my monthly fees, and I don't suppose anyone else does either. So there's a lot of unhappy people out there. I know our own Kurt Levins, who never misses an Oiler game, listened to this one on the radio. And in retrospect, I kind of wish I'd done the same thing, because watching this game did not bring a lot of pleasure. Let's put it that way.
Bruce, it did not bring a lot of pleasure. Two good things, two bad things, two numbers. What is your good thing?
Yeah, I'm so happy with everything that went well for the Oilers tonight that I am going to select Yari Kurri as my good thing for winning the Boreas Salmon Courage Award and getting yet another international honor on his fantastic resume. Kurri was definitely, one of my very favorite players for his wonderful 10 years that he spent in Edmonton, and just a glorious, complete player, great penalty killer, great power player, great even strengther, great checker, and of course a peerless goal scorer and offensive player. And he was a brave man. I have my memory of Yari Kurri being brave was one year it was a New Year's Day game they were playing, and this was before he had the visor, and somebody rang a shot around the glass, and it came up and it smashed Curry in the face and busted up a bone in his face, and he went out of that game. And the next game he came in wearing a shield, one of those sort of full face things that they used to put on when they had a facial injury, and they were playing the Flames, and he took the shield off after a few shifts because he just said, "I can't see. I'm just going to take my chances." And of course, good old Doug Risebrow took advantage of his chance to give Curry a pretty rugged face wash in his messed up face, and Curry just played on through it and scored. Did did what he did, but. Any thought that he was going to be one of these Europeans that was, a little timid out there. Not to be. I mean, he didn't play a big physical game, but it wasn't because he was timid. It was because his skill set was skill and skating and defending hard and making plays with the puck. But he didn't back down, and he was a just a fantastic player and one of Edmonton Oilers' magnificent seven who won 5 Stanley Cups in this city. So
Yeah.
more glory for Yari, and that's about the best thing I heard on that entire 3 hours tonight. So I'll pick that.
No cowards, no physical cowards in the NHL, period.
No.
And Yari Kurri was a gutsy hockey player. One of the, not only, it's funny what comes to mind with him for me, always the first thing, the 1990 Stanley Cup, for some reason, stands out to me the most of the Stanley Cup wins. And his play with Esa Tikkanen on the penalty kill was the best penalty killing.
They were phenomenal.
The Oilers came, the Oilers were really good. This, Janmark and Brown, Ryan and Nugent Hopkins, McLeod and Fogle. That might have equaled what Kurri and Tikkanen did, but that was the first time I'd ever seen penalty killing like that. Two players working in perfect tandem, aggressively shutting down the penalty kill of the other team. It was marvelous. What a fantastic player Yari Kurri was. Bruce, my good thing. There's been deserved criticism of the third line this year, Henrique, Brown, and Janmark. They've been together about half the games, I think. They've been split up for about, the other half. Tonight they did everything but score. They were so close. The Oilers actually came out in a pretty tough situation, coming home after a long road trip. And they're in the first period, for the first two periods, the Oilers had 2-1 grade A shots compared to New Jersey. And in the first period, they had 4 or 5 alarm chances compared to just 2 for the Devils. And, it's always a combination of puck luck and great goaltending in those moments that makes the difference. Henrique, in I think his first shift, he had 3 grade A shots, including 1 5-alarmer, where he got a pass from Janmark, beautiful backhand pass from Janmark into the slot, and he managed to corral the puck and raise the puck in tight, fantastic hands. He really does have great hands, and he put it off the crossbar. He had another 5-alarm shot. I can't remember it as well. Brown goes hard. Oh, this is what the defenseman wipes out in behind the net on Brown's forechecking, and the puck goes to Janmark, who puts it over to Henrique in the slot, who gets a really good shot on net. Connor Brown led the team in major contributions to grade A shots in this game with 6, all at even strength.
6 out of the 12 that they had on the night?
Yeah, he was really good.
Well, good for Connor Brown, but I don't like the Oilers' chances when he's the guy getting the most chances, because he's not very likely to put them away, unfortunately.
That is a good point,
nothing
Bruce.
Against his game, but he's not a finisher in the.
No, he's not.
Time, at this point in his career, at least.
Yeah, so he was hustling all night, and that line came to play. They were really good, and they didn't get scored on against, and they were strong on the attack. They easily could have scored, and they probably should have. They deserved 1 or 2 goals. Henrique is a scorer. Anyway, that's my good thing. It was good to see that those guys, those veteran players, come up big in a game McDavid's out, and everyone's being asked to step up here. They got it done tonight, even when the rest of the team didn't. And in the end, with the grade A shots 12-8 for the Oilers overall, it does come down to goaltending and a certain amount of puck luck in this game. The Oilers weren't badly outplayed. They weren't terrible in this game. New Jersey just got some timely scoring, as happens. And
scored on their first shot, and they were off and running, and the Oilers struggled to get back in the game.
That was a bad moment, eh? Like, you just know when you get scored on the first shot against.
5 grade A chances at that point. New Jersey gets 1, and into the net it goes.
What's your first indication you're going to lose? That's that moment, right? Yeah, you don't really need any. Like, on a certain level, you don't need any others on a night when you're going to be hard pressed to win anyway because of the schedule maker. Yeah. Bruce, what's your bad thing?
Yeah, the schedule maker is a major contributor to my bad thing. Because here was a case where the Oilers went on an Eastern road trip, and they wound up having a 4-game road trip in a week. And they finished the road trip on Sunday, and they played a home game on a Monday. I've been watching the Oilers in the NHL since 1979. I don't recall this ever happening before, where they started a home stand after a lengthy road trip with no rest. And worse, the team that they were playing, New Jersey, had 2 full days off. They didn't play Sunday or Saturday. Their last game was Friday in Calgary, where they got shut out by the Flames. And then, of course, the Oilers went to Calgary on Sunday. And there was a rest disadvantage tonight, and I thought it showed. New Jersey, they played well, and I thought they deserved to win. They played a conservative game, didn't give up a whole lot. But I didn't feel that the Oilers were like really invested in this game. And I mean, they played their positions okay, and their defensive game was, I mean, they limited New Jersey to 16 shots, but New Jersey, once they had the lead, they didn't need to shoot anymore. But I mean, Edmonton this game had 5 hits in the entire game. 5 hits.
Yeah.
Like, you got to want the puck there, fellas. And every once in a while, you're going to want to take a pound of flesh. Darnell Nurse let Dougie Hamilton go right into the goal crease on the first goal, and he wasn't much better on the second goal when he did a better job screening Pickard than he did taking care of the other guy, New Jersey guy, also screening Pickard. And, that's sort of your big, strong, robust, physical defenseman leader. And what did he have in this game? One of the hits. Let's go through the list now. Janmark 1, Henrique 1, Nurse 1, down, Stetcher 1, Podkolzin 1. Everybody else 0. I mean, I've harped on this before this year, and there's been games with 8, 9. So I don't ever remember 5. I mean, take someone out once in a while. And there was like clear plays where you just had to take one more stride to finish your check. Nope, not doing that. And this on the same night that the Oilers gave away the puck 19 times. They blocked 9 shots. They had 5 hits, but they coughed up the puck 19 times. I mean, the team just wasn't, for my money, engaging in the nuts and bolts of the game, in the what do they call them, the dirty areas of the ice. They weren't coming away with pucks and winning puck battles, and they certainly weren't winning physical battles. And it was just, and I think that rest disadvantage had a significant amount to do with it, and there's no rivalry, particularly with New Jersey, and they just didn't seem to have a lot left after, last night's game took a fair toll, I would imagine. And so that, I just was overall kind of disappointed with the level of investment in this particular game. And, it's just a dud. Out of 82 games, you're going to get a few of those. And back to back with travel is, sometimes when that happens. And it's a little disappointing when the home team has that disadvantage. But such was the case tonight. But they just didn't seem to have much pushback in the tank.
Yeah, it was a lifeless game. And I don't know.
Once it got to 2-0, it sure was.
Yeah, there was nothing there after that, that's for sure. And I just was wondering, like, was it like I was scrambling, to the grade A shots and do the game grade. So I didn't know if I was just stressed because of that and annoyed and just so, and it just made for me the viewing experience really unpleasurable and difficult. So I had that kind of tainting my experience of the game. Right. The first period was exciting. Like the Oilers were good.
First period was by far
and the second period wasn't bad either. The Oilers had more grade A shots then too, I believe. So, the Oilers, it was 1, 2, 3, 4. It was 5-1 in the second period. But the one grade A shot that New Jersey had was a goal.
It's like the first.
It's like one of those nights. It's like nothing's going right. I didn't like, my bad thing, Bruce, is the defensive play of Nugent Hopkins, Skinner, and Hyman. I think Nugent Hopkins is an adequate defensive winger. I think he's a strong penalty killer, but at even strength, I think he can get in the heavy duty kind of mucking and grinding of even strength, Nuge can get lost down low and just in the general run of things. So I think he's an okay defender as a winger. And probably I would say a mediocre defender as a center because he's asked to do more heavy physical work in the slot, and I think he's always struggled with it. Skinner, Hyman, I think, is a good defensive winger. He, generally speaking, back checks hard, and he's generally speaking in the right position. Skinner has real trouble. He's having trouble with, I think, the Oilers system, and he's often leaving point shots open, and it's becoming a bit of an issue. Like he's got to figure this out and get on. This is 2 games in a row where goals have come from him not getting out there fast enough on the shooter. It wasn't a point shot this time, but it was a higher, it was a high slot shot. He ended up screening the goalie on it. And on the same play, it struck me that Stetcher let the pass out from the corner, and Nugent Hopkins also might have cut out that pass. So there was 3 players involved in that one, but I think Skinner, like, get on that shooter, be there, like read the play, figure out who's going to be shooting that shot, who's the danger man, and cover him. And it turned out the danger man was his guy, and he let him rip. That shot shouldn't happen if he's playing his position correctly, I don't believe. So the third goal, which really, I mean, I think the game was over before then because the Oilers didn't have any life in the third period. They didn't have muster much on the attack. I didn't notice any, but I was struggling to pay attention on a certain level. Like it was I think I got them all, but I might have missed one in the third.
I'll go through the play by play and see if there's a look at all the short.
Well, Nuge had a couple shots, Nuge had a couple early ones from at the side of the net, like 10 feet away, but I didn't see them as grade A shots, the early power play shots that he had. They just didn't look dangerous. Like he was at such a terrible angle and the goalie was hugging the post. You're not going to score. Right. Anyway, this goal is in the third period and Hyman turns over the puck at the blue line. And Kulak then goes to the guy who has the puck. He might have misread it slightly. He might have anticipated that the guy was going to lob the pass because he could, and maybe just gotten back on defense, but he was trusting Hyman to get back on defense, and then Hyman didn't do that either.
Hyman took the same guy that Kulak did.
It's a mess. Hyman makes the typical mistake of someone who loses the puck. He goes to get the puck back instead of looking for where that puck's going to go and getting back hard to his net. It's really hard. Like a play like that is really hard to get it right. Mm-hmm. After the turnover happens at the blue line, it's just all on instinct. So, but the proper play is lose the puck, play it safe, get back as fast as you can, just burn back. And neither of them really did it. And Hyman's the main culprit. So that line,
I agree.
That line wasn't great defensively at all tonight, and it's gonna be a problem because Nuge isn't a great defensive center, and Skinner is underwhelming at me at this point with his defensive play on the wing, even though he is a strong attacker, and there are good moments. He will battle hard on defense on the boards, but he's misreading the play and he's not understanding what they're trying to do, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, no, on that goal, I mean, it was the pass by Hyman was ill-advised. The short pass to Kulak at the blue line, and after that they were in trouble. I will, on that goal in particular, give absolutely 100% full marks to the 2 New Jersey players who executed the beautiful scoring play, a great lob pass from Dawson Mercer that Timo Meier pulled out of the air, dropped onto his stick, stepped around the goalie and tapped it in. I mean, the pass was just absolutely gorgeous, a diagonal lob pass. And not, out of his own zone, like not one of these big, long 100-footers. This was more like a chip as opposed to a full iron shot into the green. And he just dropped it in there perfect. And Meier did the rest. And, that was the goal of the game for me. And the Oilers didn't come close to executing play like that. I didn't think at any time, really. And certainly not executing the play and then finishing it by, say, getting around the goalie or maybe raising the puck when the goalie's laying on the ice, little details like that. It just wasn't there.
What's your number?
Well, I got a couple of numbers, but they're all kind of related. 28 minutes is 28 minutes and 28 seconds. In fact, this is Matthias Ekholm, Edmonton's oldest defenseman, playing back-to-back nights with 3 and 4 days, with a big divisional game coming up on Wednesday. In the 3 and 4, which is really tough. And they just played the crap out of him in what to me was a lost cause. Like in the third period, they really should have been rolling the lines, because they were pissing into the wind if they were thinking they were going to come back, because they just weren't making anything happen. And yet here was a game where Ekholm plays 28-28, Bouchard plays 27-36, and Draisaitl plays 22-39 on a night where he had 0 shots on net. And they just kept pushing him out there like, these are the guys that are going to turn this game around. Well, it just wasn't happening. And I just thought that it wasn't read from the bench. Like there was one time in the third period where they had a shift where New Jersey iced the puck 3 times in a row. And all 3 times Leon lost the face-off in the offensive zone, which is the big advantage you get out of icing, is the face-off and the opportunity to get the cycle going. And he lost them all. He was 8 for 21 on the night. As I mentioned, no shots, no hits. He did have 3 takeaways, which was good, but 3 giveaways, which was not good. And, that was his whole line. Like there was just no offense really there. And the one play he did make to Podkolzin where somehow he completely missed the entire 6x4 from like right in front.
Well, I watched the replay on that a few times,
Uh-huh.
and the Devils defender got his stick on Podkolzin's stick just when he was shooting. So it was a good defensive play. I was going to include that as in my number, which we're going to get to in a second, but I didn't, because it was there was that defensive stick that actually broke up the play as he was trying to shoot. He had to fight through the guys to even direct it on net. So there was that. That's why I didn't go on net.
Well, the Oilers weren't very successful at fighting through a whole lot in this game, which is, let's go back to the 5 hits department, and, and the, just the battles for possession that went against them so frequently. And this was another case where New Jersey was maybe a little hungrier, a little sharper, a little more desperate. Whatever it was, they were the team that was on top of their game, certainly defensively. And Edmonton just didn't have it. In the meantime, they played the crap out of some of their, major players. Like, how is playing 23 minutes tonight going to help Leon Draisaitl 2 days from now, playing the 3rd and 4 nights against Vegas, when they're going to be leaning on him heavily again? Like, you got to pick your spots, coach. And I just don't think. I think you can add him to the name of Oilers who didn't have their best night.
Indeed. I thought he should have played Caggiula. Like, Caggiula's been injecting some energy into the lineup. So if you're going to take out a player, take out Corey Perry. Second game in 2 nights.
Here's the stat line on Corey Perry. I'll interrupt you briefly. 12 and a half minutes, no shots, no hits, 3 giveaways. Playing his back-to-back games. Like, he honestly probably shouldn't be playing back-to-back games at the point he is now.
And they had another choice. It was a big mistake by Knoblauch, honestly. Like it was. Like, and I mean it. Like why can't you see that coming? We've already seen that movie once this year on the first back-to-back game.
Yes.
And now we're seeing it again. Why is the coach doing that at this point? So that's a mistake, I think, by Coach K. Bruce, my number is 3. So not including the Podkolzin shot, there was 3 times when the Oilers had really, really great chances to score in highly dangerous moments, and they missed the net. And sometimes people, like I have an ongoing argument, like with some people, like, well, why don't you count missed shots as grade A shots? And it's because of what many NHL coaches have decided. There was kind of a consensus of this, I think, of the NHL coaches in the Roger Nielsen school in the end. And most of them ended up in this spot where they wouldn't count missed shots as grade A scoring chances. Even we only count grade A shots on net, so our definition's different.
On net
But
or hitting the post.
or hitting the post. That's what we count.
As far as we'll go.
The reason is, and this was explained to me by Tom Rennie a long time ago, more than 10 years ago when he was coach here, is that when your team has a great moment to score and you miss the net, it is a total negative. It is a downer, a psychological downer for your bench, for everybody. You've been working so hard, you get this great chance and you miss the net. It is not a good moment for your team psychologically. So maybe analytically you're thinking, well, the Oilers were in a good position to score, so we should count that. We should give them credit for creating a good moment where they had a chance to get a shot on net and they just missed. Fair enough. And if people want to count scoring chances that way, they're free to do that. But how much can you miss the net by and still have it as a scoring chance is one of the things I wonder about. But anyway, which we were dealing with because we were actually doing it the other way at first. I was doing it the other way at first. I was counting all of the scoring opportunities, even if they missed the net. And then it comes down like, okay, can you miss the net by 3 feet, 2 feet, like 1 foot? How much can you miss it by? Anyway,
I think it's a play where there's a pass that was a tap in if the guy gets a stick on it, but he doesn't get a stick on it. Is that a grade A or not? So we just decided we're going to count actual, basic, real attempts on net and to there standardize. I mean, we still have. I think our count. I'm not sure our count would be any more precise if we took and counted all these other missed shots. We would be, adding. More plays that weren't goals. Let's start with that. Have no chance to be goals if they're not on net. Now, the argument I hear sometimes is that if defensively, if you give up the wide open shot and the other team misses the net, you still made the same defensive mistakes that should have cost you a goal and didn't because the other team messed up. And my only pushback there is that offense and defense are not the same, but we're trying to play a zero-sum game, right? If we count it a certain way at one end and we count it differently at the other end, then our final count for and against is, it's going to be, it's like you're counting shots on net at one end and Corsi at the other end. Well, it's just, it's apples and oranges. So I think the compromise that we reached is not perfect because there's almost no such thing as a perfect compromise. But I think it gives us a nice chunky sample of numbers, and we could that's what we really count a few extra ones, and I think the ratios and so on wouldn't change it a smidge. So I think we found a decent compromise there.
Yeah. Game to game, they're not the same. Game to game, there's quite a bit of variation between scoring chances as counted by some people and grade A shots. But over a year, they do tend to be very similar. We have found, I think. But for me, I think the psychological argument is the main one. It's cleaner, I think, the way we do it. But when you miss the net, I think it is a blow to your team, and it's coaches will take it as a sign. You bear down, man, hit the net, and so the free Hyman breaks in on a break-in shot and he misses the net. Ekholm in the high slot. There's been a scramble in front of the net. Draisaitl's kind of fanned on it, kind of had it blocked, and then Ekholm moves in and he has his shot, and man, he comes close, but he misses the net. And the last one was Bouchard when that guy broke his stick and he moved right into goal scoring zone and he missed the net. And man, it just hit. If you hit the net, if you hit anywhere in the net, some people say, well, what if he shoots it right in the middle of the goalie? That's not a great shot. But it actually is, because the goalie, it might bounce off the goalie for a rebound then. And if it hits the post, same thing. It's important to hit the net for these reasons. And because even if your shot doesn't go in, the rebound can. So 3 of those fairly early in the game, when the game was still in doubt, and it was just like, man, this really is not the Oilers' night there. And to your earlier point that they weren't sharp, I think that was an indication of that to some extent.
They couldn't raise the damn puck when they did get chances, and Jake Allen, who had a fine game, was down and out. And it seemed like all his shots were like dribblers along the ice into his body, and nothing that sort of went into the upper half of the goal that tested him. Certainly when he was down, they were unable to generate any kind of those kind of shots.
Like Derek, there was a great 5-way passing play breakout up the ice, and Derek Ryan finished it off with kind of a fairly weak one-timer at the goalie, right at the goalie. So that was an example of that kind of thing. Yeah, but man, they had some good looks, and sometimes they hit the post, sometimes a save was made, and sometimes they just missed the net on their really good looks. And
Snipers didn't snipe.
the snipers didn't snipe. They got a cat attacking something here. Not sure what. All right, Bruce. So they play next
Wednesday against Vegas. Home game against the hated Golden Knights. And
good stuff. Good test.
Third in 4 days, so a very good test. And we'll see how some of these older players bounce back from, heavy workload and, back-to-backs. Because, nobody had a night off last night. That was a full team game. And now tonight you have extra minutes for dubious reasons. And now, so I mean, they'll have several guys that play well over an hour of hockey in a 4-day span, and that's a tall ask.
Yeah, it really is. So we'll see what happens. Some good news, I guess, on the McDavid front. He seems to be indicating that his injury's gone better than he thought it was going to. And he was out on the ice again today, skating. He looked, from the video that I saw, somewhat gingerly his skating, like not with the power and the force, but I just saw one snippet of a video, which can be very misleading. So nonetheless, it's really excellent news, Bruce, if he can come back sooner than later.
Yeah. One other small piece of news today, the Oilers made a minor league trade, sending defenseman Ben Gleason, to the Philadelphia Flyers organization for defenseman Ronnie Attard. Attard. Maybe it's Attard, but I suspect it. Pardon me. 6'3", 208-pound, right shot defenseman, 25 years old. And he came out of Western Michigan in the NC2A, and he spent 3 years splitting time between the NHL and the AHL. Played 29 NHL games with 6 points. And, looks like he's a fairly physical player, 49 hits in those games, 16 minutes ice time. So typically with players, tweeners, when they do play, their third pairing or fourth line in the NHL, and this guy looks no different. He's another big right shot defenseman, and they've already got Philip Kemp, Max Wanner at the minor league level. And who are the other righties? They got a couple more. Anyway, they've got a lot of righties now. One thing
is Wanner a righty?
Wanner's a righty. One thing this trade does do is it resolves their veteran problem. They had one too many veterans. The AHL has a rule that you can only use 5 veterans with 320 games, and then one more guy with 260 games. And otherwise, you have to use younger players. And the Condors had one too many veterans, so every game they had to scratch somebody. Right, that's why Kajula came up, and he only had 5 games when the Condors had played 6, because they rotated all these guys, Seth Griffith and various older players on that team, of which Ben Gleason was one. And the guy they just brought in is considered a younger player, and hasn't quite got the depth of experience. He's played 100 and some games in the AHL, and as mentioned, 29 in the NHL. And why Philly was willing to move on from him, we don't know. We don't know much about this guy, or I certainly don't. Not yet. And Gleason was a good, solid minor leaguer who had some potential of being a call-up, but certainly, being a third pairing call-up. And I think Ronnie Attard is apt to be the same. He looks a lot like a Phil Kemp clone, so it'd be interesting to see how they work that out.
He's more of a point scorer than Kemp. Like he was almost a point per game guy in his last year of college hockey, and he was a point every second game guy in the AHL
Oh
the
yeah,
last two
36
season.
points. Yeah.
So he's not. He's more like Gleason in terms of his point scoring output. So that's
Big
interesting.
man.
Gleason is a good player. He was though fifth on the Oilers depth chart for once they signed Travis Dermott. He did become a little bit redundant
Yeah,
because they also have Cam Dineen, who's a very
right.
similar player to Gleason.
Yeah.
So it's a good trade for Gleason. Like it does him a favor. Like if Philadelphia, um, if he has a chance there, maybe he'll get in the NHL. Like he's a good hockey player. He could be a third pairing defenseman in the NHL, Ben Gleason. And we can hope for the same with the Tard. Maybe I don't know what their right side's like in Philly, but maybe it's just a more of a depth move for both those teams. He's behind Stetcher, and who's a smaller player, right? And they might want a bigger player, the Oilers, and they might think, okay, this is a better bet than Troy Stetcher because we don't think we can count in the end. Like if we're looking for someone who might be able to play third pairing right
Now,
defense in the playoffs,
how did I
it's
forget? Josh Brown is also down there as a right shot defenseman, and maybe
yeah.
Attard will be fighting with Brown for the next call up.
Well, that could be. And Brown's not. Maybe they've just decided that's not working out, and they need to cover themselves, and they could be doing it this way. So like, you can see the thinking from the Oilers as well. And we'll.
Yeah, it's literally a minor league trade, but they've now changed the guy out on the 50-man list, so certainly worth mentioning.
Indeed. Well, Bruce, let's leave it there. Thanks. Unless you have a final thought or anything you'd like to add. All right.
No, I
Bruce,
think I'm pretty much talked out after 2 games in 2 nights, and pretty
yeah,
disappointing one tonight.
indeed. Thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.